President Putin is a story of struggle since his youth and the experiences he gained during his professional career. The stages of life and development of Russia in detailed episodes. Part 5. President of Russia Vladimir Putin. Hello, everyone. Today, we have a fascinating topic to delve into, none other than the enigmatic figure himself, Vladimir Putin. Love him or loathe him, there's no denying his impact on global politics. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest content. Now, let's get started. When asked how they were affected by the actions of Putin, a third said they strongly believed Putin was working in their interests. Another 26% said he was working in their interests, to some extent. In general, most Russians believe that it would be better if Putin remained president for as long as possible. Similarly, a survey conducted in early March found 58% of Russian respondents approved of the operation. In March 2022, 97% of Ukrainians said they had an unfavorable view of Putin. And 98% of Ukrainians, including 82% of ethnic Russians living in Ukraine, said they did not believe any part of Ukraine was rightfully part of Russia. A poll published on the 30th of March in Russia saw Putin approval rating jump from 71% in February to 83%. However, experts warned that the figures may not accurately reflect the public mood, as the public tends to rally around leaders during war. And some may be hiding their true opinions, especially with the Russian 2022 war censorship laws prohibiting dissemination of fake information about the military. Many respondents do not want to answer pollsters' questions for fear of negative consequences. When researchers commissioned a survey on Russians' attitudes to the war, 29,400 out of 31,000 refused to answer. The Levada Center's director stated that early feelings of shock and confusion was being replaced with the belief that Russia was being besieged and that Russians must rally around their leader. Putin has cultivated a cult of personality for himself with an outdoorsy, sporty, tough guy public image, demonstrating his physical prowess and taking part in unusual or dangerous acts, such as extreme sports and interaction with wild animals. Part of a public relations approach that, according to Wire, deliberately cultivates the macho, take-charge superhero image. In 2007, the tabloid Komsomolskaya Pravda published a huge photograph of a shirtless Putin vacationing in the Siberian mountains under the headline "Be Like Putin." Numerous Kremlinologists have accused Putin of seeking to create a cult of personality around himself, an accusation that the Kremlin has denied. There are many songs about Putin, and Putin name and image are widely used in advertisement and product branding. Among the Putin-branded products are Putinka vodka, the Putin brand of canned food, the Gorbusha Putina caviar, and a collection of t-shirts with his image. In 2007, he was the Time Person of the Year. In 2015, he was number 1 on the Time's Most Influential People list. Forbes ranked him the world's most powerful individual every year from 2013 to 2016. He was ranked the second most powerful individual by Forbes in 2018. In Germany, the word Putinversteher female form Putinversteherin is a neologism and a political buzzword Putin plus Verste, which literally translates Putin understander, one who understands Putin. It is a pejorative reference to politicians and pundits who express empathy to Putin and may also be translated as Putin empathizer. Putin has produced many aphorisms and catchphrases known as Putinisms. Many of them were first made during his annual Q&A conferences, where Putin answered questions from journalists and other people in the studio, as well as from Russians throughout the country, who either phoned in or spoke from studios and outdoor sites across Russia. Putin is known for his often tough and sharp language, often alluding to Russian jokes and folk saying. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger wrote in 2014 that the West has demonized Putin. Egon Krenz, former leader of East Germany, said the Cold War never ended, adding, "After weak presidents like Gorbachev and Yeltsin, it is a great fortune for Russia that it has Putin." Many Russians credit Putin for reviving Russia's fortunes. Former Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev, while acknowledging the flawed democratic procedures and restrictions on media freedom during the Putin presidency, said that Putin had pulled Russia out of chaos at the end of the Yeltsin years, and that Russians must remember that Putin saved Russia from the beginning of a collapse. Chechen Republic head and Putin supporter, Ramzan Kadyrov, stated prior to 2011 that Putin saved both the Chechen people and Russia. Some authors, such as Michael Hirsch, described Putin as a messianic Russian nationalist and Eurasianist. On the 31st of December 2022, President Putin gave a New Year's address before a group of soldiers and other members of the Russian armed forces. On the 28th of July 1983, Putin married Lyudmila Skrebneva, and they lived together in East Germany from 1985 to 1990. They have two daughters, Maria Putina, born on the 28th of April 1985 in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, and Yekaterina Putina, born on the 31st of August 1986 in Dresden, East Germany, now Germany. On the 6th of June 2013, Putin and Lyudmila announced that their marriage was over. On the 1st of April 2014, the Kremlin confirmed that the divorce had been finalized. Kabeva reportedly gave birth to a daughter by Putin in 2015. This report was denied. Kabeva reportedly gave birth to twin sons by Putin in 2019. However, in 2022, Swiss media, citing the couple's Swiss gynecologist, wrote that on both occasions Kabeva gave birth to a boy. Putin has two grandsons, born in 2012 and 2017, through Maria. He reportedly also has a granddaughter, born in 2017, through Katerina. His cousin, Igor Putin, was a director at Moscow-based Master Bank and was accused in a number of money laundering scandals. Official figures released during the legislative election of 2007 put Putin wealth at approximately 3.7 million rubles US $280,000 in bank accounts. A private 77.4 square meter 833 SQFT apartment in St. Petersburg, and miscellaneous other assets. Putin reported 2006 income totaled 2 million rubles, approximately $152,000. In 2012, Putin reported an income of 3.6 million rubles. As president and prime minister, Putin has lived in numerous official residences throughout the country. These residences include the Moscow Kremlin, Novo-Ogaryovo in Moscow Oblast, Gorky 9, near Moscow, Bacharov Ruchi in Sachay, Dolgi Borody residence in Novgorod Oblast, and Riviera in Sachay. In August 2012, critics of Putin listed the ownership of 20 villas and palaces, 9 of which were built during Putin's 12 years in power. Soon after Putin returned from his KGB service in Dresden, East Germany, he built a dacha in Solovyovka on the eastern shore of Lake Komsomolskoye on the Karelian Isthmus in Pryozersky district of Leningrad Oblast, near St. Petersburg. After the dacha burned down in 1996, Putin built a new one identical to the original and was joined by a group of 7 friends who built dachas nearby. In 1996, the group formally registered their fraternity as a cooperative society, calling it Ozero Lake and turning it into a gated community. According to Putin, his religious awakening began after a serious car crash involving his wife in 1993, and a life-threatening fire that burned down their dacha in August 1996. Shortly before an official visit to Israel, Putin's mother gave him his baptismal cross, telling him to get it blessed. Putin states, "I did as she said and then put the cross around my neck. I have never taken it off since." When asked in 2007 whether he believes in God, he responded, "There are things I believe, which should not in my position, at least, be shared with the public at large for everybody's consumption because that would look like self-advertising or a political striptease." Putin's rumored confessor is Russian Orthodox Bishop Tikhon Shevchenko. The sincerity of his Christianity has been rejected by his former advisor Sergei Pugashev. Putin watches football and supports FC Zenit St. Petersburg. He also displays an interest in ice hockey and bandy, and played in a star-studded hockey game on his 63rd birthday. Putin has been practicing judo since he was 11 years old, before switching to sambo at the age of 14. He won competitions in both sports in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg. He was awarded 8th Dan of the Black Belt in 2012, becoming the first Russian to achieve the status. He was rewarded an 8th degree karate black belt in 2014. He co-authored a book entitled Learn Judo with Vladimir Putin in Russian 2000, and Judo, History, Theory, Practice in English 2004. Benjamin Witz, a black belt in Taekwondo and Aikido and editor of Lawfare, has disputed Putin's martial arts skills, stating that there is no video evidence of Putin displaying any real noteworthy judo skills. In July 2022, the director of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, William Burns, stated they had no evidence to suggest Putin was unstable or in bad health. The statement was made because of increasing unconfirmed media speculation about Putin's health. Burns had previously been U.S. ambassador to Russia and had personally observed Putin for over 2 decades, including a personal meeting in November 2021. A Kremlin spokesperson also dismissed rumors of Putin's bad health. The Russian political magazine Sobsidnik Russian alleged in 2018 that Putin had a sensory room installed in his private residence in the Novgorod Oblast. The White House, as well as Western generals, politicians, and political analysts, have questioned Putin's mental health after 2 years of isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic. In April 2022, tabloid newspaper The Sun reported that based on video footage, Putin may have Parkinson's disease. This speculation, which has not been supported by medical professionals, has spread in part due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which many saw as an irrational act. The Kremlin rejected the possibility of Parkinson's along with outside medical professionals, who stressed that it is impossible to diagnose the condition based on video clips alone. The modern incarnation of the office emerged from the president of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic (RSFSR). In 1991, Boris Yeltsin was elected president of the RSFSR, becoming the first non-communist party member to be elected into a major Soviet political role. He played a crucial role in the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which saw the transformation of the RSFSR into the Russian Federation. Following a series of scandals and doubts about his leadership, violence erupted across Moscow in the 1993 Russian constitutional crisis. As a result, a new constitution was implemented, and the 1993 Russian constitution remains in force today. The constitution establishes Russia as a semi-presidential system which separates the president of Russia from the government of Russia, which exercises executive power. In all cases where the president of the Russian Federation is unable to fulfill their duties, those duties shall be temporarily delegated to the Prime Minister of Russia, who becomes acting president of Russia. The powers of the presidency include execution of federal law, appointing federal ministers and members of the judiciary, and negotiating treaties with foreign powers. The president also has the power to grant federal pardons and reprieves, and to convene and adjourn the Federal Assembly under extraordinary circumstances. The president also appoints the prime minister, who directs domestic policy of the Russian Federation alongside the president. The president is elected directly through a popular vote to a 6-year term. Previously, the Constitution established term limit for the presidency, restricting the office holder to serve no more than 2 terms. However, this limitation has since been overhauled in large part due to the constitutional amendments that were ratified in 2020. One of the amendments passed reset the terms of both Vladimir Putin and Dmitry Medvedev, allowing either to serve as president for a full 2 terms regardless of their previous terms. In all, 3 individuals have served 4 presidencies spanning 6 full terms. In May 2012, Vladimir Putin became the 4th president. He was re-elected in March 2018 and inaugurated in May to a 6-year term. He will be eligible for re-election in 2024. Boris Yeltsin came to power with a wave of high expectations not long before the Soviet Union's collapse. In May 1990, he was elected as chairman of the Supreme Soviet Parliament of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic (SFSR), the highest state office, and thus became the head of state. As a result of the creation of the post of president of the Soviet Union, the Union republics also began to introduce the post of president. To do this, a referendum was held in the Russian SFSR, in which 71% of voters voted for the creation of the post of president, elected in direct elections. On the 12th of June 1991, Yeltsin was elected president of the Russian SFSR with 57% of the vote, becoming the first popularly elected president. However, Yeltsin never recovered his popularity after a series of economic and political crises in Russia in the 1990s. The Yeltsin era was marked by widespread corruption, economic collapse, and enormous political and social problems. By the time he left office, Yeltsin had an approval rating of 2% by some estimates. Throughout his presidential terms and into his 2nd term as the prime minister, Vladimir Putin has enjoyed high approval ratings amongst the Russian public. During his 8 years in office, the Russian economy bounced back from crisis, seeing the country's GDP increase 6-fold, 72% in PPP, poverty cut more than half, and average monthly salaries increase from $80 to $640, or by 150% in real rates. At the same time, his conduct in office has been questioned by domestic dissenters, as well as foreign governments and human rights organizations. For his handling of internal conflicts in Chechnya and Dagestan, his record on internal human rights and freedoms, his relations with former Soviet republics, and his relations with the so-called oligarchs, Russian businessmen with a high degree of power and influence within both the Russian government and economy. This was seen by the Kremlin as a series of anti-Russian propaganda attacks orchestrated by Western opponents and exiled oligarchs. Medvedev was appointed as first deputy prime minister on the 14th of November 2005. Formerly Vladimir Putin chief of staff, he was also the chairman of Gazprom's board of directors, a post he had held for the 2nd time since 2000. On the 10th of December 2007, he was informally endorsed as a candidate for the forthcoming presidential elections by the most prominent Russian political party, United Russia, and officially endorsed on the 17th of December 2007. Medvedev's candidacy was supported by former President Vladimir Putin and pro-presidential parties. As technocrat and political appointee, Medvedev, Putin, former chief of staff and one-time rival to Sergei Ivanov, had never held elective office before 2009. Medvedev chose Putin as his prime minister. In 2012, Putin ran for the presidency, won, and appointed Medvedev as prime minister. Presidential candidate must be a citizen of the Russian Federation who is at least 35 years old, has permanently resided in Russia for at least 25 years, and does not have and has never previously had foreign citizenship or a foreign residence permit. Following constitutional amendments in 2020, the requirement of permanent residence in Russia increased from 10 years to 25 years, and a new requirement preventing a presidential candidate from ever having foreign citizenship or a foreign residence permit was introduced. The Russian constitution limits the number of terms a president can serve to 2 terms. Previously, the constitution only limited the president to 2 consecutive terms, allowing a former president to seek re-election after sitting out 1 complete term. However, following constitutional changes in 2020, this was changed to 2 terms overall, allowing the incumbent president and former presidents to serve 2 more terms. The election of the president is mainly regulated by the Presidential Election Law (PEL) and the Basic Guarantees of Electoral Rights (BGL). The Federation Council calls the presidential elections. If it does not call a presidential election that is due, the Central Election Commission will call the presidential election. The election day is the 2nd Sunday of the month, and the presidential electoral constituency is the territory of the Russian Federation as a whole. Each faction in the State Duma, the lower house of the Russian parliament, has the right to nominate a candidate for the presidential elections. The minimum number of signatures for a presidential candidate fielded by a political party with no parliamentary representation is 100,000, down from 2 million before amendments to the law. Terms were extended from 4 to 6 years in 2008 during Dmitry Medvedev's administration. The president is elected in a 2-round system every 6 years, with a 2 consecutive term limitation. If no candidate wins by an absolute majority in the first round, a second election round is held between 2 candidates with the most votes. The last presidential election was in 2018, and the next is in 2024. The inauguration of the President of Russia is conducted 6 years after the previous inauguration since 2000, this the 7th of May. If the president was elected in early elections, they take the oath 30 days after the announcement of the results. Before executing the powers of the office, a president is constitutionally required to take the presidential oath. I swear in exercising the powers of the President of the Russian Federation to respect and safeguard the rights and freedoms of man and citizen, to observe and protect the Constitution of the Russian Federation, to protect the sovereignty and independence, security and integrity of the state, to faithfully serve the people. Vacancies in the office of president may arise under several possible circumstances: death, resignation, and removal from office. In all cases when the president is unable to perform their duty, their powers are temporarily transferred to the prime minister until the new president takes office. After the oath of office has been taken by the elected president, these following insignia are handed over to the president. These devices are used to display the rank of their office and are used on special occasions. The first insignia that is issued is the chain of office with an emblem. The central emblem is the Red Cross of the Order for Merit to the Fatherland, with arms in equal size, charged with the Russian coat of arms. On the reverse of the cross, the words benefit, honor, and glory appear in the form of a circle. A golden wreath is used to connect the cross with the rest of the chain. There are 17 links in the emblem, with 9 consisting of the Russian coat of arms. The other 8 consist of a rosette, also bearing the motto benefit, honor, and glory. At the inauguration of Vladimir Putin, the emblem was placed on a red pillow, positioned on the left side of the podium. According to the presidential website, the emblem is placed inside the Kremlin and is used only on certain occasions. Summary of Russian President Putin in approximately 2 minutes. Vladimir Putin is a former Russian intelligence officer and a politician who has served as president of Russia from 1999 to 2008 and from 2012 to the present. He was also the country's prime minister in 1999 and from 2008 to 2012. Vladimir Putin served for 15 years as a foreign intelligence officer in the KGB, the Foreign Intelligence and Domestic Security Agency of the Soviet Union. In 1990, he retired from active KGB service with the rank of lieutenant colonel. When Vladimir Putin was named president in 1999, Russia's constitution limited the president to 2 consecutive terms. That's why, after his second term ended in 2008, he served as prime minister before becoming president again in 2012. However, in January 2020, Putin drafted a constitutional amendment that would allow him to remain president for 2 more terms. It was included in a package of amendments that was approved by the Russian legislature in July 2020 by Russian voters in a national referendum. In the 2 decades of Vladimir Putin's reign, he has consolidated his rule and projected to the Russian people an image of Russia as a global power. He turned Russia from a nascent democratic state into an autocratic one, expanded Russia's influence in the Middle East, strengthened Russian relations with China, and displayed a willingness to use force to achieve his goals, as in his annexation of Crimea in 2014 and his large-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. In the decades following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Ukraine moved toward closer integration with Europe. When pro-Russian Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych tried to reverse that trend in 2014, protests swept him from power. Having lost an ally, Vladimir Putin invaded and annexed the Ukrainian Autonomous Republic of Crimea. He also provoked separatist uprisings in Donetsk and Luhansk, 2 regions in eastern Ukraine. Fighting between pro-Russian militias and the Ukrainian government continued there for years. Running on a populist reform platform, Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president of Ukraine in 2019 with more than 70% of the vote. In 2021, Putin ordered a buildup of troops along Russia's border with Ukraine, and in February 2022, after he announced the beginning of a special military operation, Russian forces invaded Ukraine. I stop at this point today. Thank you for watching. I hope I added something to you. You enjoyed the last few minutes. We will meet with you soon.